Hey, I'm Turner Vinson. Welcome to day 2 of my week of quarantined demos from the yard. And today we're going to do this painting. So every day this week I'm picking out a different scene to paint and do a demonstration video. And it's of a scene from my yard, which if you saw yesterday's video, my yard has some pretty nice views. And here's what we're painting today. And before we start painting, I'll tell you a little bit about my materials. So my easel is a Russian Yarka easel. This is an easel that's been around for a long time. It's a wooden box. It's got these telescoping metal legs. It's not the lightest box. They make some nice push-out boxes that are nice and light, easy for backpacking or if you don't want to carry a lot of weight. But I love this easel. First of all, I'm kind of a wannabe Russian impressionist. I love the Russian work. I love the rawness. I love the subject matter. I like a lot of the paint application. So it's a big inspiration for me. I love having a Russian easel, but besides the sentimental part of it, I like that it's big. I can paint bigger, though I'm painting a 9x12 today. I often paint much larger paintings on location, and this easel can hold it. This is the medium size. I also have the large size. They make a small size, and underneath, you can keep all your brushes, maybe a few tubes of paint, but I'll carry this in a backpack and hold my canvas, and that's typically my gear. And for brushes, I prefer a stiffer, like a hog hair natural bristle brush. I like the stiff brush in how I want to apply. And the filbert is just a shape of brush that I've always painted with. I feel like it's very versatile. I can pretty much do everything I need. And then I'll have a variety of other brushes too, some small brushes, some really soft synthetic brushes. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this painting. And just for the sake of variety, I am going to tone this canvas. If you kind of skip through all my videos on YouTube, you'll see that toning is not something I almost ever do. But it happens from time to time, and I thought we'd do it today. And I'm gonna tone it with a kind of a gray, a warmish gray color. Don't want it too saturated. And you'll see, I'm gonna tone this and then I'm gonna scrape it off and just leave something that's not the white canvas. All right, I'm happy with that color. I'm just gonna thin this down, cover the canvas really quick, and then I'm gonna scrape it all off. And we'll have a nice toned canvas. Grab a paper towel. And I want to scrape this pretty hard. I want to get as much of the oil off of this as possible. All right, I'm good with that. All right, now let's place our composition down. So this is a pretty big scene to be going on a small canvas, but I'm gonna be just getting a suggestion of this big mountain. And I know I want the snow-capped part here, and it's gonna come down. And right around here is where the dark trees are gonna meet the kind of dead cottonwoods, which create a nice color of nice light color in there. All right. So over here we have the edge of this mountain coming down. And this canyon right here is called Blodgett Canyon. And these are the big mountains above it. See how we're gonna place these. Yeah, something like that. Looking at this ridge right in front of the snowy area. And then there's some kind of shining, some canyon walls that are being hit by light here. And I don't know, it's going to be so small in my painting. I don't know if that's going to be something that comes across or not. But that is the overall idea I was going for. And I think if you watch yesterday's demo and today's, you'll see that really quickly I get this kind of whole idea in there, and it allows me to get more done in my painting than spending too much time on this stage. I'm going to start with this area of dark. These are all just pine trees going up the mountain. Start with that, and it's not too saturated of a color. It's warm. It's a warm color, and it's fairly dark in value, but it's distant. So these are all the things that, you know, I'm thinking about as I try to decide what color to place it down as. Might work in some areas. A little blue. Add some yellow and shift it to green a little bit. I'll lighten it just a little bit. All right. There's a shadow. I'm gonna block this in quickly, and then there's a shadow being made. There's a shadow that I really like being made across that, and I'm taking some blue, some purple, and mixing it right back into that in that pile. So today is kind of a partly cloudy day, so the clouds are kind of rolling around. So areas of this go into shadow and then come back out. So it'll be nice as this painting evolves to pick and choose some areas that would be nice to have in shadow and to play with that pattern. Right now, all of this is in shadow, and right here is in light. But it hasn't been that way. So as it evolves, we'll kind of be able to pick and choose where we want the light to be. So I'm going to jump to the mountains in the back. They're snow-lit, they're snow-covered, but they're in shadow right now, and I'm going to keep it that way, at least for the time being, for the back ones. So I'm going for just kind of a grayish blue, thinking snow and shadow, and it's in the distance. It's a little too saturated. I'm going to knock it down a little bit. It's a little too light, I think. And this painting is, like I mentioned a second ago, it's really small for this. It's a small area to be working. And so I like working small. But some of these areas, you know, the changes become really subtle. All right, now as I'm painting, this back part came into light. And so I'm just gonna go for it immediately and declare that I like it in light right there. Right now, this area is in light, and there's a little light right here. And I like all that. All right, speed it up a little bit. This mountain right here is in shadow right now. Get a little terp. And if you watched yesterday's demo or other demos, you'll know I always heed warning with terp because it's easy to lose control of your scene. This is an area of just kind of a bunch of rocky crags, and I don't even know what crag is, maybe that's the wrong word, but there's a lot of contour, a lot of rocks, a lot of things going on in there. Yeah. And even still, the light is shifting around, and I like this ability to kind of pick and choose what's nice in light. That area is in light, but right next to it is staying in shadow. And then this area here, let's see, comes down, down. It's kind of undecided if it's going to go full shadow or not. And I like being able to leave it nondescript for a moment. And then there is some light dancing around here. Okay, I'm gonna leave that for now. I'm gonna hurry, get everything blocked in. And let's see. This area here has some ridges that have snow on them. Working our way down, there's these canyon walls right in here. See if we can just hint at. Yeah. Some of that's a little bit warmer. So I'm just touching my burnt umber and a madder lake. All right, I'm gonna jump down here. I really love this area down here where it's just kind of these fields sprinkled through a bed of dark green. And like I mentioned a second ago, these are all dead cottonwoods that have a really nice, actually they're not far off from the color that I toned it. So let's move down in there. That is way too cool. It's turning out as the same color as my ground, yeah, like that. We have some of these, there's like a pine tree sticking up. Some of these nice variations will give it a little distance. I just stepped back and I'm squinting, and this all can go darker and it's warm. So I'm gonna do that. And I apologize for you not being able to see my palette the whole time, but you know, it is what it is. This area here, I think we'll bring this green down. Yeah. All right. Squinting. These trees still need some darker values in them. See, I'm just going to push them dark, and then make adjustments. It's one of the things with oil that, especially if you're not thinning your paint too much, I can push all of that dark and then I can work right back over it, absolutely no problem. And if you're thinning it out, which is a stylistic decision, it's not like it's a wrong way to work, but in my process, I like having that ability to come back over it and not feel like once I thin it or once I do something that I can't touch it again. But it's called direct painting. It's not considering everything in layers and letting things dry. This is going for it pretty much all at once. It's all a prima. I'm gonna look at some of these shadows again. Use some of these darks. I think it can help a lot. Yeah. Right now there's one up here. I think it will help a lot. Yeah, I like that. All right, I'm gonna grab a smaller brush and hint at some of these darker trees that I'm seeing poke up. There's a lot of variety in this area. And I'm kind of having trouble simplifying it and shifting it enough because I was trying to be a little too general with it. But I think as I put a few of these little details in there, it'll read a little better as kind of a valley floor. With trees. And there's these great trees, I think they're some kind of willow, that have these really orange branches in winter. It's just the bare branches. We'll kind of hint at some of these around. And like people who live here or in similar areas, you know, when you see that orange color, you know immediately that it's those dead willows. Stepping back, squinting, and I'll be honest, I'm still seeing a lot of confusion. I'm sure as you're sitting there watching, you have the luxury of sitting back and not being too invested in the scene or in the act of painting. I'm just seeing some confusing things still. I'm squinting, and a lot of this is still confusing. So I think it's some of this transition stuff that I didn't really describe too well. And a rule for me is when I get confused with some things, if I simplify it, I can get it down to kind of a base structure and then reassess and figure out what's confusing. It kind of has this slope and slant to it, and I'm not quite getting that. Might be, let's see. Might help a little bit. Start to bring it up. of course, as I'm looking out there's houses, there's cars, someone's burning a pile of stuff, and there's a lot of crazy things going on, but I'm trying to squint at the scene and squint at my painting and try to just grab a little bit of the feel of what's happening out there on this little 9x12. And as I'm squinting, I am feeling like I can kind of see, I'm starting to see a little bit more of the direction that I wanted it to go. I like a lot of what's happening. Some of this canvas that's showing through is throwing off the kind of the value relationships that are happening. So I had the same problem yesterday as well. Take care of some of that raw canvas or toned canvas that's coming through. This is too light of a value, and this is that canyon wall that I was considering avoiding. And if it's going to be confusing in the painting, then it doesn't deserve to be there. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it for now, and then maybe we'll bring it back. I like the direction we're going. I'm going to jump up to the sky. The sky, it's a cloudy day, but there's a lot of blue showing right above the clouds. So I might drag a little bit of blue in amidst all the clouds. And as I'm squinting, looking at the clouds, they are darker than the snow on the mountains. So I gotta make sure that's kind of my priority with their value, is that they go darker than the snow. And that's everything in painting. You're comparing everything. The snow is lighter than the mountain, or the snow is lighter than the clouds, but the clouds are darker than the blue of the sky. You know, you're comparing constantly. I think we'll go darker. Yeah, I like that. Do a layer here, kind of skips over to here. And then there's some lighter clouds, as always. The clouds are soft and have some subtle shifts and variations in them. And let's see if I can just drag a tiny bit of blue in the corner. Maybe over here. Going to go for a couple of darker punches of cloud as well. Still darker. Let's see how dark we can push it and it not be too much. Is it too much? Squinting. It's just a hair. I think it's a hair too much. And then some of this is just getting confusing. You're not sure what's the sky, what's a cloud. So first I'm gonna just firm up some shapes. I did lose a little bit of that shape right there. This jumps up. Yeah, like that. little bit of variety up here in the clouds. All right, and in this snowy area, there's a lot of little trees, and there's, let's see, this part of it just kind of is in shadow right now, and it could be nice. Could be a nice element. This area back here just kind of went into shadow. Yeah, I like that. There's a line, a contour line coming down. And just, this area is really just got a lot of little things happening in it. I just want to make sure it's not too overly simplified. And with these distant mountains, sometimes it can be just little touches of another value like this that can give it a little more form. Yeah, looks nice. And there's this nice kind of motion to it back here. And the front of these Bitterroot Mountains do this kind of flat grade that comes down. Really soft looking. And like I was saying yesterday, in yesterday's video, there's an element of reality that you want to, of nature that you want to try to keep in your paintings, and that's what I like to do. You know, I like to leave room for people to be able to do what they want, and not judge too harshly on people's preferences. I like the idea of keeping a certain amount of nature and of what's happening in real life, what's happening in the mountains, in the painting. I don't feel the obligation to paint to do photorealism of it, but in this kind of impressionistic way, hinting at, suggesting at the actual form and the actual shapes of these mountains. And one of the nicest and one of the best compliments you can get is someone from the local area look at a pretty loose painting and know exactly where it is. I've had people look at my paintings of the river here and say, yeah, they know exactly where that spot is. It's the spot that they fish. And that's it's like the best of compliments when you can do something and it's recognizable, but yet it's really just simple suggestions and hints. All right, I'm looking down here in the foreground, and there's some areas of these pastures that are pretty bright, that are being hit by light. And right now, it's really this color, but this is in the wrong spot. This should be some areas down here. So I'm gonna push some of these areas down, quieten them down a little bit, and then really push it further down. Might be too much. We'll see. Might work. Just give a little bit of variety to those edges. Yeah, I'm stepping back, squinting, and that really does give it more of a, that kind of partly cloudy day. It's hitting it's hitting in some areas. I think what might help it is to pump up my light up here a little more as well. Let's see what we can get away with. A couple areas that are just kind of like the sun's just skipping around, which it is. And maybe a little bit of it here. Having a few areas that feel a little more lit, a little more lit might be helpful. Let's see. Might be too much. I think it is too much. Sorry, you just missed a few minutes of painting. My technical error. But I worked through this area and I kind of overdid it, and then I kind of came back and you know, I'm squinting and I think it's reading the right way. So I'm okay with that. As I'm squinting just now thinking about this, I'm seeing this yellow come through, which was really a mistake, and it's reading as a mistake. So that's back of the brush. Goodbye. Goodbye to those spots. Stepping back, squinting, looking at my subject, which is now more in shadow than it has been while painting. I'm not convinced with the sky. I think that I am trying to exaggerate some of the darks. I think we went still just too dark. So I'm not gonna lighten the whole thing, but see if there's a couple of areas that I can lighten up just a little bit. Yeah, I think that helps soften some of those edges in there. I'm looking at this area and you see some of these pine trees kind of spotted through these lighter areas in here, and I think that might help give that a little more meaning, give that a little more understanding. So let's see if we can do that. This is my smallest brush. This is something you kind of have to be pretty careful with, because if you overdo, you know, the little trees in the valley, if you overdo it, it can start to really feel, you know, overwhelming or overworked. So I'm just thinking, could, you know, a few spots of kind of these dark shapes help the painting out. And I think the answer is yes. I think that helps. Looking at some of this contour, just kind of trying to shore it up a little bit. And honestly, that's a quick sketch, but I'm pretty happy with it. I'm standing back pretty far. I'm standing back maybe 10, 15 feet, and it's reading really well. So I think I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to call that a wrap for day 2 quarantine demos, painting from my yard. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's a little 9x12. I think it's a nice little sketch though. It's got some freshness to it, but it has enough detail. I think it holds together pretty nice. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. And tomorrow, day 3, we'll pick another scene. See you then.